So this is a video for the upcoming solar eclipse, the partial solar eclipse, and the new moon that's happening in the sign of Gemini. At least that's where we have the sun and moon come together. Of course, when we have an eclipse, it's because the sun and moon have come together at the same point, and we have this new moon cycle that starts. When we have a lunar eclipse, then we have the sun and moon are opposite with the earth in the middle. So here we're going to have this partial solar eclipse, which, you see that the sun is 15 degrees of sidereal Gemini. K2, the south node, is 29, so it's very wide. The sun is very far away from the nodal axis, which is where we have the eclipse. The last new moon that happened in sidereal Taurus was at about 15 Taurus, and there was about a 14-degree separation from the node as well. So this is why we've had these two partial eclipses on either side of the node, and then the lunar eclipse was very exact because then the moon fell like right on the node when we had the lunar eclipse. So again, as eclipses go, this one is these two solar eclipses are both wide, very partial, what are called partial eclipses. So the sun is not going to be completely blocked out. So at the very least, though, we do have this new moon, which is a new moon cycle. Every time we have a new moon cycle, it's when the sun and moon come together. It's like sperm meeting the egg, masculine and feminine coming together, and then we have the genesis of a new cycle beginning. So this is the beginning of the Gemini cycle for 2011, because sun moon come together. 15 Ardra. Ardra Nakshatra is ruled by Lord Shiva. The thing to realize astronomically about this place in the sky, when the sun is in sidereal Ardra, we're looking away from the center of our galaxy at the sun. So when you look up at the sun right now, you're looking completely away from the center of the galaxy, which means the Earth is closest to the center of the galaxy right now. The galactic center is over here. The galactic core is in Mula Nakshatra, over here. And so right now the Earth is over here, and then the sun is over here. So in our orbit around the sun, we're closest to the center of our galaxy right now. And the galactic plane, the plane of the galaxy, runs at about 6 degrees 20 seconds of Ardra and Mula Nakshatra. It runs right along this plane. So the Earth is like, at least about a week or so ago, passed right through the plane of the galaxy, actually on the first day of summer. What's happening now on the solstices is we have the Earth going through the apparent galactic plane. So there's a big emphasis on it on the winter solstice now because it lines up with the Mayan date of December 21st, 2012. That's the winter solstice, but the summer solstice, we're also passing through the plane of the galaxy right now. And I talked about this connection to the Mayan calendar and the galactic plane on my lunar eclipse forecast because it's hitting the same points of Ardra and Mula Nakshatras and the plane of the galaxy, both of those eclipses. So right now, we're having this wide partial eclipse, but the Earth is very close still to the plane of the galaxy. And so we're crossing these junction points twice a year, not just on the winter solstice, but also on the summer solstice. It's just that the Earth is at a different position, and the sun is at a different position relative to the plane on these solstice times. So on the winter solstice, the sun is closest to the center of the galaxy because it's over here, and the Earth is back here. On the summer solstice, like we just had, the Earth is closest to the plane of the to the core of the galaxy, and the sun is furthest away. So right now, when we're looking at the sun, we're looking out from the center of our galaxy. Now, this is the nakshatra of Ardra, which also could be said as a Rudra. Rudra is the deity here, and Rudra is a fierce form of Lord Shiva, which is about transformation, destroying weakness, and a lot of cosmic supernatural power. Lord Shiva is the deity of silence, peace, eternity, stillness, and non-embodied life. The part of you that's not just living here on earth through form. Living here on earth through form is fine. And we have a body that takes us through our incarnation here on earth. This is more related to Lord Vishnu, Lord Narayan, the sun as Narayana. Nara means human. So the God of us as humans is related to Lord Vishnu. And Lord Narayan as an incarnation of the sun who presides over creation, meaning embodied creation. But there's also a level that's not embodied. That's just like the substratum of everything that has this unbroken connection to peace and stillness and eternal power. And that's the realm of Lord Shiva. And that's the quality of this nakshatra of Ardra, which is where we're having the solar eclipse and the new moon cycle. Because Ardra is ruled by the god Rudra, who was the earliest form of Lord Shiva. In the Krishna Yajurveda, there's a section called the Rudram, the Sri Rudram, where they glorify Lord Shiva, Lord Rudra, and they talk about Shiva Rudra, Shiva Rudra. Shiva literally means auspicious. And originally Shiva is a way to address Rudra, because Rudra is this big sort of badass. And they wanted to say, oh, auspicious Rudra, don't kill us, give us good stuff, help us. So Shiva Rudra, Shiva is like auspicious Rudra. It's more like a greeting. And the word Shiva literally means auspicious or glorious, things like that. It's more of a title, or it's more of an adjective on some level. But so this quality of auspiciousness and primordial power is at the heart of this nakshatra and of this solar eclipse. A great time to really penetrate to the realm of clarity, stillness, truth, and depth beyond the world. Now, it exists in Gemini, which seems a little bit at odds, because Gemini is very worldly. It's about communication, details, things like that. But the thing about this energy, it is the energy of transformation and what appears to be chaos, what appears to be random, unexpected events. And that's a lot of what Lord Shiva, Rudra bring into existence. It's not just about, well, I should say that beneath the chaos, beneath the potential craziness of the world, there's that substratum of silence, peace, stillness. And people who have planets in Ardra, if you have the sun in Ardra, or moon in Ardra, or ascendant, or any planet in Ardra, is going to have a quality of, there's going to be a potential sort of chaotic, or like the awareness of the chaos of the world, but trying to destroy the chaos on some level and bring about something that's more eternal. There's a lot of destruction in this nakshatra. It's, in my opinion, without a doubt, the most destructive nakshatra. Almost every major calamity, catastrophe has a planet in Ardra. That includes like 9/11, Hurricane Katrina, the tsunami, all the wars. I did a whole thing on Ardra Nakshatra, where you can see there's almost always a major planet in Ardra, or a couple of them when we have disaster. So there could actually be a lot of natural disasters for the next 30 days, my feeling, with the full and new moon coming together in Ardra Nakshatra. And I know we've already had a lot of them. We've already had quite a few, especially with the sun going through Ardra. We've seen a lot of like fires and stuff like that since, well, it's been about 9 days. The sun, Ardra starts at 6:40 Gemini. Of course, we haven't had a major calamity, but it could happen. There could be some intense activities for the next 30 days for sure with this sun, moon, and Ardra. Just setting a sort of stage for that. The other thing to realize Saturn is forming an aspect, very tight aspect. Now in Western astrology it's called a square, and this is a square, but Vedic astrology, the planets, the outer planets also cast special aspects. You got to pay close attention to them because they're one-way aspects. Which means Saturn casts a one-way aspect 3 houses in front and 10 houses in front. And it's just Saturn putting an aspect there. It's not mutual, which means Saturn is aspecting the Sun and Moon, but the Sun and Moon aren't aspecting Saturn. It's one way. So Saturn's putting the aspect on it, saying, I'm putting some of my mojo on you. You're not putting any back on me. So this aspect of Saturn onto the eclipse and the new moon in Gemini definitely also portends a little bit of intensity for the next 30 days, and that could mean, some battles and some unexpected especially some sort of disaster, natural disaster that has a death toll to it. Sorry to say. And I'm never sorry to be wrong about things like that, but certainly this has that quality on that level, on the mundane level. On an inner level, this is incredibly powerful for meditation, concentration, solitude, strength, personal power. Absolutely, no question about it. Because this is what Saturn is. Saturn is what introduces stillness into the equation, always. Saturn is what stops things, slows things down, prevents them, and that literally also means your mind and your thoughts. When someone has a strong Saturn aspect onto their moon, for instance, they can feel silence. Saturn will stop the emotional waves. And sometimes that doesn't always feel good. Because then we become aware of silence, we become aware of stillness and peace in our mind. It can be peace, but it's also terror on some level. It can be terrifying to have the mind stop and then go, my God, I don't know who I am. My God, this is scary as hell. Let me do something and try to latch on and form some attachment. This is what the moon does. This is what the mind does. Saturn will go, no, stop. It'll stop it. Saturn influence on the Sun. The Sun is confidence and power. Saturn will stop it and go, no, this isn't real confidence. This isn't real power. With the moon, Saturn says, this isn't true connection. This isn't real connection. And wherever we're phony and false about something, Saturn will show it to us. And then depending on how mature we are, we either say, oh, this is good, or this is bad. And if it's bad, now I'm suffering, I'm depressed, I'm unhappy, and I want more good stuff. If we're mature, we just say, this was false, this was phony, this was an illusion, this wasn't real. Thank you. Thank you, Saturn, for showing me the truth. Now I get to grow up and face it. It's harder, but this is all the greatness in life comes from being mature and comes from Saturn and the reality check of Saturn, which shows us the truth about something. The truth is neither good or bad, it's just what it is. The truth of how mature we are about something. So, it's big. We have Saturn direct square. In Western astrology, it's a square, but in Vedic astrology, it's a one-way aspect from Saturn, which is, he's putting it on it, saying, you're going to see the truth now. And this also includes things like, here in the United States, like the budget, all this financial stuff that's going on right now. Some stuff could hit the fan. We could really see a major, bang right now. In a not so good way. A very powerful reality check, corrective reality check. In a couple days, actually. Because, you see, this is an exact applying aspect within 1 degree. Both of these are applying to Saturn, and especially to have the moon in such a powerfully applying aspect. The moon is 15, Saturn is 1640. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we might see some really big financial corrections and some reality checks. There's things like with the Greek economy. The U.S. is going through this debt ceiling thing right now. This is huge. These are ticking bombs. All the credit we have out, the U.S. economy, the world economy still is floating on dollars, and dollars are weak. They're depleted. International monetary policy could crash down at any moment. We have no idea when or how it could happen. not saying that it will, but all of these potential corrective things and reality checks are big. Of course, the sun and moon, the sun is about government and finance and power. The reason it's about finance is because the sun is about power, and power comes through money and finance. Saturn is, of course, about money, the reality of how much money you have, not the illusion, not the credit. The credit is related to things like Jupiter, extending credit, hope. Oh yeah, we'll put this out, this investment will come and pay back. This is all Jupiter kind of stuff. But the reality of it is Saturn. How much money you actually have, how much asset you really have, is really related to Saturn. And he's putting the screws on moon and the sun. And the moon is like the comfort, the structure that we have. The comfort that can get taken away. If that comfort is based on illusion, like this expectation that, oh, it'll all just work out, it'll keep working out, we don't have to pay attention to it. Eventually, you have to pay attention to it. So this eclipse, especially with this heavy Saturn aspect, could be big. Now I'm talking about cultural things, global things. This also includes things like military, governments, and the conflicts that have been going around the world. We've seen them die down a little bit since Mars went into Taurus. Like I said, we'd see things calm down a little bit when Mars goes into Taurus, because we did have all those planets in Aries. Mars goes into Taurus, and there's not as much, like there were wild protests and governments like Syrian government, Libyan government, like firing on people and people in the streets. Not as much as that, but we're seeing more political unrest like in Yemen and other countries. These things are going to continue, and again, there could be a strong reality check again. Keep in mind this idea of reality check right now. Reality check with Saturn. We're going to see the truth. We're going to be exposed to a deep truth, and this is an Ardra Nakshatra, which is like revolt, revolution, spirit of revolution can really take hold again. We may really see the spirit of revolution take hold in a whole new way in the Arab world with a strong reality check of authority and consensus, hopefully around pushing the dictators out, you would say. So beyond that, it's the Gemini cycle, which, Gemini has to do with new paradigms, new ways of thinking, new ways of doing things, innovation, communication. And, we can see a whole new renaissance in, like, this sort of, well, they called it a sort of like Facebook revolution when the thing happened in Libya, or I'm sorry, in Egypt, where social media played a big part. We might see a big, we might see some real, some citizen uprising and have it happen around social media type of things, where people are communicating again around, organizing through social media. I think there could be some real upheavals. There's no question with Sun, Moon, and Ardra aspected by Saturn. Big, powerful potentials for that in the next 30 days. The other thing is Mars is getting closer to Ketu, and just as important aspect, opposite, Rahu here in the opposite sign. So you're going to get Mars, Ketu here in this axis. And as Mars gets closer to Ketu, we're going to get more and more discontent and concentration, discontent around our sense of value, feeling valued, value system. And this obviously translates globally. All the stuff I'm saying, you can apply to your life as well. Reality checks in your life, your power, your sense of comfort, your, as it relates to, your money, your sense of power, your contribution. All these things are also big. As Mars gets closer to Ketu, like I said, in Taurus, there's going to be more concentration and scrutiny and willingness to be courageous about areas in your life where you're not acting in accordance with your own values and value system as well. This is just the nature of Taurus. But again, we can project this onto a larger scale as well in the world at large. And I didn't mention Venus here in Gemini. Venus has joined this new moon. And of course, Venus brings creativity, diplomacy, accommodation, willingness. And this can bode very well for the potential difficulties that may come. And it does lend a gentler possibility to upheavals and financial crises, or natural disasters and things like that, because Venus is obviously a planet that makes things gentle. And I've often seen that when Venus is involved with any sort of catastrophe, a sort of death toll or loss gets mitigated. Like you might see a dangerous earthquake happen in the middle of the ocean and like nothing happens, rather than happening on land with a lot of destruction and a lot of death. So hopefully any intensity will be mitigated by the gentle influence of Venus. That's certainly possible. The other thing that's important to note is there's a Parivartana Yoga, an exchange between the moon and Mercury. Mercury is in Cancer, the moon sign, and the moon is in Gemini, Mercury sign. Anytime you have this Parivartana Yoga, this exchange, there's glue. Now, what this really means, it's not just you can't just apply these things indiscriminately. It means that those goals will be, that there's commonality in fulfilling those goals and those wishes, because those planets are like in each other's environment. So the shared goals between Moon and Mercury will be supported, and the fact that you have these planets in Mercury's sign and Mercury is in the Moon sign shows that what could be distracting and dangerous as far as Sun and Moon are concerned in Gemini have support, given the fact that Mercury is in the Moon sign, which facilitates a more feeling-centered possibility. Because the Sun and Moon, especially the Moon, because we're talking about the Moon that's in the exchange, the Moon is our sense of feeling, how we feel, and the desire to be connected. Gemini is not really an emotionally connected sign. It's about intellectual connections. So there's a sort of disconnect when Moon is in Gemini, and the Moon in relation to Gemini sort of turns our feelings into stories and kind of distances ourselves from the purity of feeling. This is a quality of when the Moon is in Gemini. But if you get the exchange, Moon is in Gemini, but Mercury's in Cancer. So what happens is it's a process. Now, unfortunately, many times Vedic astrologers, because this is a big thing in Vedic astrology, they go too far and say, well, it cancels it out, and nothing gets canceled, it's not canceled, none of that. It's just a dialogue. It actually sets up a dialogue. It's like a loop, it's like a circuit. It's just what it looks like. There's no reason to overreach it or underdo it or whatever. It's not canceling anything or trumping anything, or that stuff never happens in astrology. It just sets up this dialogue. So that quality of the Moon in Gemini, which might create a story around your feelings instead of connecting you with the feeling directly, which is what Moon in Cancer would be. You just feel the thing. Moon in Gemini, there's more of a story, and that story can be a very sort of distancing, distracting thing. But if Mercury's in Cancer, because Mercury's the ruler and the originator of the story, and it's in Cancer, which is more about feeling. So there's a dialogue that's set up, there's a harmony that's set up there. So this is important as well, because we have Sun and Moon both in Mercury, and Mercury is exchanging with the Moon. So it can be a very sensitive time, a time of deep intuition. And, in fact, even learning how to put our feelings into words. It could be quite poetic. It could be quite creative in that way. Aside from any kind of worldly thing or, intensity, it's definitely good for maybe putting our feelings into words, which is a Moon Gemini thing, especially Moon exchanging with Mercury. It's a very harmonious dialogue, even if the planets are enemies with each other, which in fact these two don't have a good relationship. They'll agree on the things they agree on. And then they disagree about the things they don't agree on, which is another issue. But in general, this will create a harmony of purpose around what they share. And in a prajna chart like this, or in a chart of the moment, you would see this generally as a cooperative and helpful thing. So any kind of intensity, you'll see support through communications, like I said before, like the sort of, maybe social media, or people will be able to still communicate. And then with the Venus influence, there's a more gentle possibility because Venus is like the nurse, the one who is there to help and to give comfort and care. So interesting stuff. Ardra Nakshatra ruled by Lord Shiva. Great time for introspection, facing intensity head-on in your own life, the willingness to embrace chaos and penetrate to the truth of it, the depth and the silence beneath it. Saturn aspect on the Sun and Moon, both luminaries, open that possibility up tremendously because Saturn is the giver of silence, shanti, stillness, peace, darkness, peace, beauty, maturity. Big stuff. So it's a great time to rest peacefully amidst the chaos of the world, the chaos of your mind, or whatever. So now I'll do a assessment of the 12 zodiac signs for my gold members. Those of you who aren't should really look into it. You can find out now about how this will influence your sign in the upcoming month, and also you can get one of my free home study courses and a free 14 days to my member site. So check that out.